What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're jumping in with another Destiny 2 video, this one with a bunch of Season of Reclamation event info, but also some extra discussion about how events in Destiny 2 could actually be one of the keys to significantly improving progression. We saw examples of that with Solstice, so we'll talk about it because I think Bungie have a big opportunity. Otherwise, we'll round up what to expect over the next 2 months, where a series of events actually pretty much form the roadmap for the game. So, of course, there's the Exotic Mission, the return of Arms Week, which has a couple of changes involved. Otherwise, Festival of the Lost for 2025, which in some ways will be the big one, and then Call to Arms, which is the end of season event, where Bungie have even teased that there will be a component which will earn us tokens that can be used in Renegades. So, some interesting things to discuss. If you guys enjoy the video, do us a big favor and hit subscribe. We are working towards 600,000 subscribers very slowly. If you watch my videos regularly and you are not subscribed, you could absolutely make my day by hitting that button below. Otherwise though, cheers for watching and let's get into it. Firstly, for the discussion, I'll keep this as brief as I can, but obviously Destiny 2 has a lot of issues right now. Lots of things that players don't like, whether it's the portal, gear tiers, the power climb. Bungie have been trying to iterate on these things, but it's clear the simple reality is that it's going to take a while to get the game back to a significantly better place than where it is now. In that time, however, I think Bungie have an absolutely massive opportunity, as was demonstrated with Solstice in the summer, to generally buff progression and rewards, whether it's gear tiers, the amount of power we can earn, and the fun factor of that loot chase through the events that they've already got planned, as well as potentially additional opportunities to just have, for instance, a boosted loot week where everything drops a tier higher than what you currently earn, unless of course you're already earning tier 5s. And to apply significant boosts to power progression. I feel like Bungie maybe have levers to actually do that, which don't require significant development time. Obviously, I could be wrong there, but while Bungie actually try and fix the bigger issues down the road, if they were to say, hey, 15th of October, that's a random date, we're going to triple power progression for the week and give everyone a 10% chance at earning tier 5 loot in all activities. That just seems like a huge, easy way to not only get players in the game, but also to demonstrate, hey, we realize that these problems are real, and we want to give you a more fun reason to get into the game right now and feel like that progression is really moving things forward. I think Bungie should look to do that. In terms of the roadmap of things coming up though, the next biggest thing is the launch of the Exotic Mission on October 7th. There'll also be a sandbox update that day. Apparently the Exotic Mission is called Heliostat, and as we've seen, we earn the new exotic axe from it. Of course the axe technically behaves like a sword, it has sword perks, and there's got to be a sword somewhere beneath that weapon skin, but it was certainly one of the highlight components for Ash and Iron. Players were disappointed that it didn't come at launch, so I'm looking forward to getting that, and of course, presumably week by week upgrades with catalysts and various intrinsics and stuff. So that's the first thing, and on the same week we'll get the return of Arms Week. This time, Bungie have said they'll focus on shotguns. Best I can tell, the Trackiness shotgun is still going to be the primary weapon for this. Of course, we could first earn that in heavy metal, but there's basically an event version of this, and I think they've updated some of the skins and holofoils. As far as I know, the perks are actually the same. But Arms Week will once again come with its event track. There'll be an updated engram where we can earn up to tier 4 drops. Presumably tier 5s are reserved for simple gameplay rewards. And additionally, there'll be a handful of other shotguns featured, which are not in the tiering system, so they are from before Edge of Fate, but for any folks who want to get a better roll on the Inquisitor, Imperial Decree, Reeswalker, Supercluster, No Reprieve, Perfect Paradox, Dead Grammary, if I'm saying that correct, probably not, and Ikelos. Those will also be focusable during the event, kind of like what we saw last time. Next thing on the calendar though is Festival of the Lost. This year, it's looking pretty interesting. Bungie have firstly said there will be a new 6-player PvE mode, which is specifically for Festival, so contrasting that against Solstice, where we actually didn't get a dedicated mode. If the rewards for Festival are as good as Solstice, technically, we're in for a better event this time around, potentially. I'd be willing to bet though that this 6-player mode is going to be in Sorrow's Harbour on the moon, just based from the artwork here. This is the Festival armor for the year. We can see they're in Sorrow's Harbour, but there is additional Festival-themed stuff, the spindly tree branches and candles around. Unless they've simply used this as a staging ground for that screenshot, then it could be that this is actually where the activity will be featured. The cosmetic armor sets, ornaments, as always, will be sold via Eververse, 6,000 bright dust or 1,500 silver, but festival weapons this year will have 2 different skins. So the holofoil versions have this green glow effect, which is pretty cool. I suppose it is rather garish, but that's probably the point considering it's a Halloween event. Or the base skin for them, which are gold and black weapons. Again, really smart right there, and you've kind of got 2 different options. Either the extreme colors or something that looks a bit tidier. They also have these nice kind of wooden finishes on them, I suppose. those. And then of course you can get the tier 5s, which also drop with their Ferrous skin. That is of course the tier 5 ornament. The Hushed Whisper though will be a precision frame strand bow. I'm not going to go into full perks. You can see the 2 main trait columns on the screen right there. I've got a separate video that breaks all these perks down in more detail if you want to check it out. The other weapon though will be Gunburn, which is a new kinetic SMG. It is a lightweight frame SMG, and yes, it's a reskin of the Recluse model, but again, it looks fairly tidy there. There are a couple of interesting perks with this being a kinetic weapon, things like Bewildering Burst, and reloading the weapon after defeating a target causes the next hit to launch a kinetic projectile that detonates into a disorienting blast. That can also pair up with Kinetic Tremors and another perk called Ancillary Ordnance, where rapid elemental final blows and kills on targets affected by elemental debuffs periodically prepare a micro homing missile which is launched from the target after the weapon's next final blow. We can also prepare multiple missiles with that perk, so those two alone arguably make it a pretty interesting weapon. Then there's an update for the Arcane Embrace. So again, we get the new visual effects. Of course, that is an Arc Heavy Burst shotgun. And again, you can see some of the traits for it on screen. So weapons alone for Festival are pretty interesting here. Otherwise, yes, there will be a heavy cosmetic component to this event with stuff in the store, shader packs, plus Bungie will feature previous year's armor sets, which will all have the same costs in the Eververse store. But I'm very much looking forward to seeing what the game mode will be like. And then, as we move away from festival stuff, a few weeks later, we'll get the Call to Arms event. Bungie have said there will be a narrative tie-in between this event and Renegades, so it basically is the tipping point that leads us into the Renegades expansion. It won't have a new activity, but there will be a competitive component where Guardians will be tasked with trying to get the highest scores in a selection of 5 specific activities. And there'll be a unique helmet ornament available for all classes. It actually looks identical for all classes as far as I can tell, but it comes with a flaming mohawk, which has a bunch of trail effects, and Bungie say the colors on it will be reactive, and that will sort of demonstrate your highest scores during this event. There'll be other things we can earn though, such as a new weapon skin for the Season Pass Pulse Rifle from Reclamation, which will be called Desert Burnish, and there'll be bonuses which apply to a handful of different activities and rewards in the game, so maybe it will be doing a little bit of what I suggested at the start of the video, but importantly, the Submersion Crossbow will become entirely farmable once this event is live, so we will no longer rely on the very low drop chance for the weapon, which will also be featured with that low drop chance during any of the other events we've spoken about. But it'll basically be time to farm the God Roll on it. And otherwise, Bungie said there'll be a handful of additional legendary weapons, and I assume it's probably going to be any of these which have that icon with, is it a horn or a horseshoe that's a bit weird? I don't even know really what it is, but that essentially refers to the new territories and call to arms stuff, the event component of this second half of the season. And that's why I thought it was sort of an interesting video, because it's very clear that Bungie are obviously planning to sort of support the game with these events in a more significant way than what they have in the past, and that's why we have so many different variants, right? Heavy Metal, the annual events, sure, Solstice and Festival, plus if there's a big sort of loot boost component to those annual events, which Solstice sort of suggested might be the case, then we should keep in mind there'll be the Dawning in December, which will probably be dropping within a week or two of Renegades itself. So that might boost our progression there. And otherwise we have these kind of seasonal events, including Call to Arms, Arms Week and all of that kind of stuff. So that's why I think it's a really big opportunity for Bungie to drum up as much hype for these specific events as possible. Not least in the next couple of months, right? Because presumably the game is going to get better from Renegades onwards. That's what Bungie is saying will happen. So I think Bungie need to make the right gestures and changes to try and keep people on board for as long as possible until those more significant updates start coming, which of course are a bit further down the road. Bungie like to use the term "we're listening," and I think if Bungie were to do these extra progression type of boosts in a really significant way, you know, not just here's a little bit, it should be here's a lot, go absolutely wild. It would be the ultimate demonstration of, yes, actually, we are listening, and this is what we can do right now. So a bit of a mixture of both discussion and info in this video. Hope you guys didn't mind it. I've had a really busy week, so I was trying to figure out where do I go this weekend in terms of content. This is what you got. So I hope it was at least enlightening to some extent. If you did enjoy the video, give us your thoughts in the comment section. A rating would also help me out no end as well. Plus, again, feel free to hit subscribe and I will keep you up to date with everything related to the game. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and I hope you guys have an absolutely awesome day.